I am insulted when I'm referred to as a rapper today. It puts me in the box that I fought so hard to get out of.
And podcasting feels different.
Freedom feels different.
At 23 years old, Joe Budden was on the biggest hip-hop label in the world, Def Jam, and he had just released his first Grammy-nominated hit, Pump It Up. Despite the success, he never felt valued by the music industry in the same way that he felt valued by his fans.
Yeah, we got off the stage. Joseph comes back in, gives me $100.
I ain't never bought not one Joe Budden album, but I've been listening to that shit forever, man. Straight up, that shit. If I'm ever fucking depressed,
That's who you listen to.
if I ever see him in real life, I'm putting money in his hand.
I framed this motherfucking $100.
In 2016, Joe decided to leave his rap career behind.
18 years of my career in a game that I had no say-so on the rules that were being put in place. Podcasting, not so much, buddy. This is new ground.
15 years after starting his music career, he reinvented himself as the #1 podcaster on the planet, signing a multi-million-dollar deal with Spotify. And last year, Joe decided to leave Spotify and go independent with the podcast.
The guard is changing, and creators have the leverage.
Despite where he is today and his incredible success, the path to get there has been brutal, from addiction to shitty contracts to people undervaluing his creativity every step of the way.
We don't catch feelings, we catch flights.
I invited him to San Francisco to talk about his journey and what his newfound artistic freedom feels like.
This is great.
Dude, the last couple weeks have been insane.
The last few weeks have been amazing. It's been beautiful.
Creators have so much leverage. Creators don't even know that yet.
I have no idea.
And moves like you made are helping creators kind of open their minds a little bit.
Yeah.
And giving them that sense of self-worth, which is, I think, another reason why your move was such an important move, kind of for the whole community.
Yes,
Finally,
we're here.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jack. Thank you for your hospitality.
Yeah,
Thank you for this Barbara Walters screen. I love it.
like the glass.
Yeah, it's safe.
Yep. Okay, I want to go way back with you. I want to start all the way back.
How far back? Birth?
I want to go back to actually, first memory. What's your first, do you know your first memory?
If I tell you, you're gonna think I'm a liar.
Okay.
I remember being in a crib.
You remember being in a crib?
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember?
Just being in a crib. I remember the blanket, and I faintly remember who I thought was a sitter or a nanny, but it wasn't a parent. And my mom told me that was the neighbor. That's my only memory of me in the projects, Washington projects in Harlem. Just me in a crib. That's my earliest memory.
And that's where you were born?
Well, no, my mom would get really mad if I say that. I was born in Lenox Hill.
Why would your mom be mad at you?
Because when you say Washington projects, it's poverty. So when you say I was born in Harlem, she says no. I was middle class, and you were born in Manhattan at a hospital that everybody was trying to get their child born at.
And what was your school like?
School back then was cool, educational, boring.
Were you rapping?
No, I was singing before I was rapping. I'm in a choir, I'm singing lead. And then 13, 14, when it was time for high school, I guess my mom may have noticed some behavioral issues in me. She wanted to send me to a school in North Carolina.
What were the
High school.
behavioral issues?
Drugs, burglaries, the streets. Just when you are a single mom and you can sense the streets having a strong hold on not just one of your kids, but both of your kids. So there we are now. At 14, my mom says, I'm not gonna send you to high school in Jersey City because that's gonna be bad. So we go to Laurinburg, North Carolina, and what I learned is that this is a school for bad kids from all around the country. I learned how to be bad for real.
What do you mean by that?
Because I wasn't really bad when I got there.
She sent you to this school to get better, and you got worse.
1,000%.
What did you do? What do you say you got?
Well, there are no parents. There's no house that you have to go back in at a certain time. You can smell like the Cisco that you're drinking. Like, you can just do what you want with no supervision. there was other kids singing. I started a singing group in that school, and I wrote. So I wrote songs, and we tried to sing them.
Like what kind of, like a quartet?
Like a quartet. And my roommate rapped, and I sung, and I wrote, and we was high. So when we were high, he would just start freestyling. He said, yeah, go ahead and do it, man. You can do it. I said, I don't rap. He said, so what? It's just something fun to do when you're high. I said, okay, and that's what we did. And it was just freestyle sessions while we were high. So freshman year, imagine now Christmas, when I go back home, whole different kid. And my mom saw this kid. I might have went home and said, yo, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I smoke cigarettes now. I was trying to leave the school. I think I robbed a gas station and got caught. But I got suspended from the school. So I went home, did the suspension, didn't want to go back, but I went back. I think the final straw was my sophomore year. I tried to, man, I hope y'all edit this to make me sound good somehow on this memory lane trip. Sophomore year, I tried to burn down the dorm.
You tried with, you.
Because I wanted to go home. I wanted to go home. I asked my mom. I begged my mom. And I just didn't want to be there anymore.
How did you try? What did you do?
Gas. I walked to the gas station. I filled up a thingamajiggy of gas. Went back to the dorm and
poured gas over the dorm and lit a match and lit the gas.
Tried to.
But you got caught or you got stopped or something?
They evacuated. That was the end.
That was the end. You got kicked out.
Yeah, they sent me out.
They sent you
That
out.
was the end. When I got back home in high school, when I was bored in high school, because that didn't last long, I only stayed in there for maybe a few months. But lunchtime is when we would rap. So now here's this kid who's new here, and at lunchtime, he's rapping with the rappers, and he's better than the rappers.
You were better than the rappers?
All of them. Every time I went, it was an event. I quickly learned that I needed more raps. I was running out of raps. So at this point, I was going to school just to write the raps.
How old are you at this point?
16.
Okay, so this is 96, this is...
96, yep. 96, I'm now driving around, well, being driven around by my guy Dill, to different cities in New Jersey to look for huddles of people that were rapping.
You're driving around looking for huddles of rappers, and then you're hopping out of the car, and you join the huddle, and you rap with folks.
Yes, cipher. We ciphered everywhere.
Cipher? That's called ciphering?
That's called a cipher. One day I would hit the cipher with nothing but metaphors. Your sneakers are blue like, and your jeans are, and I'll do this like, and I heard him like, and this like, and this like, and it was cool. And then the next day it would be suicide. Nobody ever hit the ciphers in New Jersey with suicide raps, ever.
Suicide raps
suicide,
about
I'm
suicide.
saying suicide, but depression. Nobody ever gave them that in the cipher. And I even did a little bit of that. We got chased out of projects. You can't just hop in somebody's cipher and be nice.
And did those ever see the light of day? Did those ever get published?
Some of them.
Those ones from 16 years old?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, one of them, this was my baby back then. It was called Gotta Watch My Back. I have a copy of it somewhere. I gave it to my therapist at the time because she knew that I wrote.
So you had a therapist?
Yeah.
At 16?
I can't drop out of fucking school in North Carolina, Jack, and come home and not have a therapist. Yes. My mom wanted to get to the bottom of what was going on in my brain. She was amazing. She understood me in a way that other people did not. She understood me in a way that my parents maybe didn't at the time. Like, we kicked it. And I felt very comfortable in sharing with her. And she said, hey, man, let me read one of your raps one day. And I said, all right, cool. I've been killing these ciphers with this depressed shit right here. I'll hand it to you just thinking that I thought she would be able to appreciate the artistry in it. She didn't.
She just analyzed it?
She analyzed it, and it was bad. She called my mom. It was code red. We got to get this guy to a psychologist. We have to. He's suicidal. Are you aware of some of the stuff he's writing in his music? Damn, I want to hear it now.
Yeah,
It was
pull
such
it up.
a piece of poetry.
Gotta watch my back. It ain't safe. Gotta get my paper right.
That you?
And it's a lot of my dogs.
16.
They either dead or in jail. But if I kill myself, would it be
Oh, this is
heaven
great.
or hell? Gotta watch my back.
Hey, that boy was nice, man.
Oh, yeah, give me it. Yeah. And I can't cope with no antidote. 2 options. One is slitting my wrist. This kid is nuts. Or go to the precinct with a clip in my fist. So I keep a cig in my lips. Shit is painful. Fuck suicide, done did too much dirt to know if I'ma be an angel. So help me God, try in my sleep, cause you didn't pull me out of shark-infested waters to die on a beach. And it just continues this way. So just, if you're a therapist and you're hearing this, and you're familiar with this kid's story because you've been talking to him for a few years, you had to send him to the psychiatrist.
When you recite those lyrics back and you think about what you were going through back then, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
It was designed this way.
What do you mean by that?
This just sounds like a kid trying to understand.
Yeah.
Just sounds like a kid lost in his own emotions, a little overwhelmed, and looking for clarity just throughout everything. And I would tell that kid, this is all by design. The country, the crack, the projects, the geography, just all of it.
So, okay, at some point, you rap into a microphone for the first time.
Well, the ciphers led me to a gentleman named Maher. His name at the time was DJ Quest. And he was trying to be a DJ. So he just bought some DJ equipment. And I said, great. I rap. And I went to his house and I just rapped over things.
Did he invite you to his house? Mm-hmm. Because he heard you in a cipher.
He heard about me.
He heard about you.
He never heard me in a cipher. He wasn't that privileged. You had to know my name in Jersey City in 1996.
So he had beats and stuff?
No, instrumentals.
Instrumentals?
Not original productions. Songs that were out. Remember, he's trying to be a DJ. He's trying to blend and...
Like
so he's
karaoke
just got
tracks.
crates of records.
Okay.
Put an instrumental on. Some Wu-Tang shit, some Gravedigger shit, any instrumental, and I'm gonna rap to it. I'm making records with him for years. 95, 96, 97. 97 I left. I went away for a little bit.
Where'd you go?
I went to the Newark Renaissance House Rehabilitation Time. I went in June 13th, 97. Came out in 98 now. Older, a little more seasoned, and with 5 books of raps.
Books?
Books. I went to Maher's house, laid it all. I was the illest rapper in the world at that point. And he met a guy named Dub B, who was a white boy in Bayonne who was making beats on a computer somehow. That blew our minds in the hood. And he was my new person now. And my god brother, Bryce, in 99, 2000, said, yo, man, I never knew you could rap like this. Why the hell are you not in New York? He said, just give me some music. And we gave him some music. And he took the music to Queens, and that music landed in someone else's hands, and someone else's hands, and eventually into the hands of my first production company.
Production company?
Production.
You didn't have a record deal yet. You just
No,
had
I didn't have a record deal.
Did you sign a deal with the production company?
You fucking bet I did.
And what was
After
that
I
deal?
saw some of the guys from the company on TV sitting next to DJ Clue at a Knick game, why would I not? They bought the equipment. They gave Dub B and myself 10 grand a piece that was just supposed to stretch forever. We spent a lot of time flooding the streets. Freestyles, mixtapes, freestyles, mixtapes, freestyles. And the same thing that happened in Jersey City in the ciphers happened in New York. Got hot fast.
How did you know you were hot?
Because you started to hear yourself in cars.
In cars.
In cars that would drive by, you would hear yourself.
You'd hear your voice rapping in a car driving by.
Yeah. The slot that you were positioned on the mixtapes got higher and higher. I think when I debuted on the mixtape, I was the last track, which is normally what they do when it's a favor or just some throwaway shit. In a matter of months, I was 1, 2, 3, or 4. You couldn't put a mixtape out. You couldn't put a mixtape out without putting me on it. But the goal for me at the time was to get the Clue. I wanted to be on a Clue tape. That was the goal.
And so this is 2000.
2000.
So you're
I wanted
2
a record
years,
deal and I wanted to be on a Clue tape.
and you're 2 years out, or a year and a half out of rehabilitation.
2 years.
2 years. Did you start doing drugs again?
No.
So you're clean at this point. Did you stay clean? Okay, so at that point you want a record deal. You're clean. You want to be on a Clue tape. And what happened?
And-
Did you get those?
Yeah. My production company had relationships. And I was the hottest thing in the street. I mean, made it pretty easy. Clue eventually did start playing us on the mixtapes, and that played a huge part in securing a record deal, I would assume. So I got a record deal, but not under Def Jam proper. They were starting this new subsidiary called Spit Records. The fuck is that? Hey, this ain't the Def Jam roster. Where's Ja Rule, Method Man, Jay-Z, DMX? Where are they? No, you're on Spit. I jumped at it. I made a song called Focus. I put it out on a DJ Clue tape. It did great. It made top 8 at 8 and all of this shit. And Def Jam had no idea I was even on the roster.
Yeah.
Spit. They didn't know shit. They just knew this record was doing something.
So you moved from Spit to Def Jam. So you
Def Jam proper, yeah.
Do you remember when the single started hitting?
Pump It Up.
Yeah.
Pump It Up hit as soon as it played once.
So you put it out, it hits, and how did you know that it was big? What happened?
DJ Enough got on the radio 5 o'clock, rush hour, traffic jam, and said, Def Jam, you missed the last one, but this is it. And he just kept bringing it back. Bunch, for like 10 minutes on the. I heard that, you had to know what was happening. You'd have been a fool. And Def Jam did what they had to do. When the Grammys came, I didn't think I'd win that. Like, it said Joe was nominated with Eminem, Ja Rule, 50 Cent, and Ludacris, or whoever the biggest acts were at the time, that's who I was nominated with. I was just flattered to be nominated. I called my mom, she was hyped, and we went. Because that's what you do as an artist. You get nominated for your first Grammy, you bring your mom and you go sit. And I went and sat, and that was when I learned that I hated award shows.
What did you hate about it?
Everything.
Yeah.
I hated the people. I hated having to get dressed. I hated the paparazzi, the smiling, the shaking of all these hands, the waiting in line like this to get in. Get the fuck out of here, man.
You never went again?
I did when they made me, but even then, that's a different Joe. I snuck McDonald's in at that point. I'm eating burgers. No, I wasn't abiding by the Grammy rules.
You snuck McDonald's into the Grammys?
Yeah, I was the only guy eating. Listen, what are you gonna do, kick me out? I'm not winning these anyway. I'm not here for none of this celeb shit.
Had you done any radio yet at that point?
Oh yeah, no. I did the Hot 97 morning show in 2004. Tracy Clarity, at the time, was the program director or the head honcho at Hot 97. And she was real fly with me. And she came to me and said, you ever thought about doing radio? And I said, no. And she said, you should. And I said, all right, I'll think about it. She said, no, think about it now. And Monday, come to work. Tracy, I thought it was the wildest concept ever. And I called my mom and I told her, I said, this is what this lady is saying to me. And I've never done this before. And
you're 24.
I'm a little nervous. Yeah, but I'm not making any money in rap. So, yeah, she was saying radio, but I heard steady check.
What was the check?
It was $250 a year.
$250,000 a year to do radio at 24 years old.
I was in heaven. I loved it. I went there that Monday. She got me a hotel Sunday night. I stayed in the city. I talked my nervousness out with my mom. And 6 in the morning, I went in there.
Why were you nervous?
I've never done that before. It's a 4-hour block.
You have 4 hours.
We don't talk for 4 hours, but it's a 4-hour block.
Did you have to plot it out? Do you know what you're going to talk about?
I didn't know anything. I didn't know shit. I had never done it, no experience, no knowledge, and I was gonna learn on the fly.
You liked it.
No, I loved it.
You loved it. Why did you like it so much? Why
I
do you
was
love
being
it?
paid. I was being paid finally.
So you liked it for the money, or did you
Well,
enjoy?
no, I enjoyed this, and I was being paid. So.
Did the label
I
know
had
that you
done
were
enough-
doing this?
Yeah, they knew. They knew. And I was a real presence in New York at that time because of that radio gig, but maybe too much so. The label came to me and he was like, you can't do both.
Why?
You have to pick a career. You can't say that you want to be a rapper and you want people to buy your music if you are on New York radio every morning and you're that accessible. Why would I buy you if I can turn the radio on and hear you for free?
Do you agree with that?
Huh?
Do you agree with that? In retrospect, does that?
No. But listen, I didn't agree with it then. I wasn't bold enough to challenge it. This is the president of my label. I know how this goes. You're telling me if I stay over here, then I can't be over here. I want to be over here, but I'm not being paid over here, but fuck it. And I left radio, back to rap.
So you gave up 250 grand a year to make no money rapping.
Yeah.
And did they have an answer for that? What did they, when you said, hey, I need to get paid?
I remember going to Leo Cohen and saying, yo, man, this is great. Quick question. How do rappers make money? And he said a pub deal. I said, wait, that was my introduction to a pub deal. What is this? What are you talking about? What's publishing? And why do I have to go outside of this building to get paid? My production company went and got probably a decent pub deal. Not so decent when it's 50% of all pub for the next million projects. I was amazed that I was making show money. Somebody's paying me to stand here and rap something that I wrote. Not only am I being paid, I'm gonna pay my hype man from the hood. We can get to travel and pay you, get a DJ. Wow! We did it. Couldn't be more wrong.
What, and so when did you start to kind of realize that? What were the moments where you're like, oh, fuck?
Oh, well, they started pressuring me for a second album. I was nowhere near having a second album. I didn't start songs, by then I was out already. I'm doing shows, and I couldn't wrap my head around, well, how am I supposed to record an album if I'm out doing shows, buddy? Can't be two places at once. So yeah, they were like, yo, we need an album, your single's dying. They were doing all the exec shit they were supposed to, but I was young and just had a couple dollars and doing what I want to do. And then Kevin and Leor and everybody that I had grown to love at that label left. Picked up, left. Whoa, emergency. Because I had just gone to Skane, my A&R, and said, hey man, I want to leave this label. And somehow, at the time, he said to me, well, Joe, where the fuck do you think you're gonna go? You're coming off a flop. Where do you think you're going?
Wait, the first, Joe Budden wasn't a flop. You got nominated for a Grammy.
You're in 2021 talking. In 2003, going gold, or just shy of gold, was considered a flop. They weren't.
Gold is 500,000 records?
500,000 records.
So you were just shy of 500,000 records, and they were like, where are you gonna go? Selling 500,000 records?
500,000 records. But again, at this time, I don't even know what was spent to make this. I know I made it with my Bayonne producer that I found. And we made all of these songs. It didn't cost nothing. I called him. He had a beat. We did it. We had 4 Just Blaze beats. I mean, put whatever price you want on it. This album didn't cost very much to make. But we might have been in a real big hole for whatever reason. I wasn't privy to that.
So then how did you leave?
Theo Sotomayor, a lawyer.
So you got a lawyer.
I got a lawyer.
And you said, I'm out.
Get me out of all the deals. Def Jam, they wanted nothing to do with me so bad, they didn't even ask for anything. The labels, I didn't have a good experience there, and I did the radio. I can't go back to radio. I'm gonna do the digital space. I wanna be independent and just see what it's like to create this on my own for cheap and keep an eye on it, watch how it is distributed and keep an eye on it, and then receive something, because that's how it should go. And I signed something with a company out of Boston, and I went and I met up with them in a Target parking lot, I think it was, Bed Bath & Beyond, one or the other. No lawyer, no manager, no team, no nothing. And they gave me a contract, and it was one sheet. And I read it. It wasn't but 2 paragraphs, very easy to understand. Hey,
A 2-paragraph record deal.
2 paragraphs, we'll give you this amount of money, you give us that, and that's it, it's a wash. So that's what we did. I read it, I signed it, they gave me the money, I gave them the music.
How much money?
100 grand?
100 grand.
75 grand, somewhere around there. Had to be something like that.
And this is 2008, 2009.
2 quick projects, 2009-ish.
iPod's out, iPhone just came out, iTunes is at its heyday.
Yeah, this should be a win, right?
Yeah.
This should be a win. And the projects were cool. They weren't, again, cutting corners. They weren't mixed. It wasn't my best representation. But at that juncture, at that point, I'm just doing whatever I need to do to get by. And then I learned that one sheet that I signed, and this is my version of events. Other people might have a different version. That one sheet was then plastered to like 90 other sheets, and a new contract was created that said I owed more albums. And my lawyers, my team of whoever wasn't present at the Target parking lot couldn't understand it, couldn't believe it. What is this shit? And it was a big to-do, a big hoopla, stoppage of work from Joe. But I didn't have the money to fight it. I didn't fight it. I just stopped the work.
So you just stopped recording records for them. And you couldn't fight it. You couldn't get out of the contract. You just stopped making records. Mm-hmm. So you're like, I'm going to stop making records. And what were you going to do?
I did a job. Like, I'm not having a blast. This is no longer fun. The Dominican girlfriend is upset in the house. Home ain't fun. I have roommates. The fuck? The bills are late. Nothing is fun about this. I'm just running around saying I'm the best rapper. Who cares? The fans are laughing at you. You just put out another flop. What did you sell? 13,000 copies of a fucking digital album? Wait, what is a digital album? You're not on a label? No, get him out of here. And that was the perception of Joe Budden in 2000 and whatever year that was. I had some cool YouTube Joe Budden TV shit going on. That was hot, but I wasn't being paid.
You started uploading to YouTube in like 2008.
07, 08.
07, 08. And some of those videos literally have like hundreds of thousands of views.
Yeah.
So you're putting out videos. At what point did you start videotaping yourself?
2007. 2007, when I was trying to get away from my record label at the time, and I wasn't positioned very well in the music industry. I thought an advantage of mine, because I wasn't going off of image and gimmicks, and I wasn't really hiding my normal life of normalcy, that I could show it. I could put a camera on and highlight some of this stuff, and maybe I would be relatable to the everyday working man and the people that are not so fascinated by this glitz and glam and all this stuff that I'm not really fascinated with either. And for me, coming from not the greatest time in my music career, this was able to feed my creative juices and just sustain me a little while longer to think of the next idea.
Which was what?
Let me fast forward, because we stopped the work, no more music for you guys.
Yep, 2011.
They recognized that, and they eventually sold that contract to E1. I met with E1, they changed maybe 3 things, 4 things, or they changed enough to get me back to working.
So they offered to pay you for making more records.
That's what they say.
And you toured for what, another couple years?
2012, 2015, I think I put an EP out on E1 in between there, and that was the end of that deal.
So the deal ended.
And in my brain, all right, like, I should buy a house. Like, I should probably try to do some things to get a house. And I went to E1, I said, all right, deal's up, it's time to do this deal the right way. I waited all the way to the end. What do you got for me? I said, probably 250, all in.
$250,000.
Maybe.
To
All in. To record the album, to promote the album,
to make videos.
to make videos, to mix, to master, any travel, anything came from that 250. When I heard that number, it was like, wait, hold on. 16 years of rapping, my fucking blood, sweat, and tears out to get to the end of the road, and you tell me 250 all in? Is that my value? I'm not taking that. I understand I haven't made my best music here. As creators, we always put the onus on us. But I'm gonna outperform that. I'm gonna show you. My best years are to come. I'll show you, buddy. Going over to Sony Red and see what they'll give me. I like some of the stuff Sony Red's got going on now, E1. And Sony Red said, we got about 250, all in. I said, all right, I'm gonna go to anywhere I went. They had 250 all in. They ran their little calculator machines, and that's what they came back with. And for me, it was such a sad state. It was such an awakening, such a fucking reservation and an epiphany. It was like, is now the time to get a job? Like, what are we doing here? And we were in Detroit recording some Slaughterhouse stuff. And at that time, I don't want to record anything. I probably wasn't the happiest camper to be around, to be honest, when it came to recording music, because all I did was highlight the issues. But we're in Detroit, and we were having a conversation, me, my Slaughterhouse brothers, and we were coming up with a top 50 rappers list, but we were rappers, so we were having like the rapper version of this, but we were literally placing people where we thought they should go, and it was such an intense talk. It's like, damn, I wish this type of talk could get out. Like, I wish this was the talk that people could hear, because this is where the value is.
Just people talking
Rappers
about, yeah.
Talking about rap. And as an artist, putting these albums out, I was going to do these interviews, places, and you could tell when they didn't hear your stuff. You could tell when they just asked you the generic, all right, well, what inspired the name behind this one? It never felt good. And toward the end, like, I think you could see it on me in these interviews. Like, I went because I had to, because somebody was invested and I never wanted to be there, and most times it didn't go well. And at the end, I said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. So I started my podcast.
And so then when you got into podcasting, it was 2015. What was the first episode?
Who knows? A mess. First episode was me saying, what is a podcast and what is supposed to happen on it? Am I supposed to say my opinions on, like, musicians? Because I don't care. Like, I don't care what you guys are doing. I don't care what you're making. I never want to talk about y'all. I hate y'all. That's probably what the first podcast sounded like. And then it got to a point where people started listening and people really wanted my opinions. And I couldn't just keep saying, like I had been, yo, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. And I'm not gonna tell y'all what I really think, because y'all really gonna think I'm nuts. And once I got out of that shell and just got a little more comfortable in this new podcast seat of just openly sharing, which I should be pretty good at, because I've openly shared throughout most of my career, it worked. In our first year, we maxed out at 50,000 listeners.
50,000 listeners in 1 year. Were you excited about that?
No.
Didn't feel big at all?
Felt like we were on to something. But my goal at the end of year one was, how do we turn this 50 to 100?
And how did you get it from 50 to 100? So that's 2015, 2016 rolls around.
2015, 2016, I'm on Adderall and I'm dissing Drake.
And you're dissing Drake.
I'm on Adderall and I'm dissing Drake. I said that he sounded very uninspired on his latest offering, and that his responsibility to hip hop was greater than he offered here, and some of us can tell. And you're too comfortable, and I know you're a superstar, but this shit is whack, and get this shit the fuck out of here and come back when you're inspired. That was the point. Who the fuck is this failure-ass rapper to say these things about the biggest rapper that we have right now? But it worked somehow, I guess.
And it becomes like a thing. It gets big on socials.
It was a thing, and I was still rapping, so I mean, I went back and forth. I didn't have anything better to do.
You were still rapping?
This was my last project.
With what?
Oh yeah, okay. So E1, I went to, E1 said 250 all in. No. Sony read 250 all in. Everybody said 250 all in.
Yeah.
No. I end up with Empire. Empire is a label that wasn't around before. Not really a label, but a new form of distribution where they're gonna give you a good split. 80-20, 85-15, whatever the split is. You pay everything, and when it's done, you make the money. And that for me, I didn't want to go out man, that last album on E1 was so depressing. It was so sad. It was a guy who had had enough of all of it, and nobody seemed to care. When I say nobody, I mean like the fans. Like the fans just, wow. Yo, this guy's nice, man, wow. You heard what he did with that? That way fucking dying. Like, I didn't want anything to do with music after that last album. And it was so sad and so depressing, and I love music too much, that I would never let that be my last offering of music, ever. When Joe Budden is no longer here, you're not gonna go to my last project and hear a man just that jaded. So, I went to Empire. That was a new way of doing things, because now, all the money comes off the top. Whatever you sell is coming off, and you'll get the rest 4 months later. And that was a new way of doing things, but I loved it because it was after 16 years at this point, this is the closest that I've ever come to performance-based work, value. So that was awesome when that happened. And it was a much happier album. It was a very lyrical album. A lot of samples. It was a throwback. It was a feel-good album. I talked about love. I talked about my kid. And it ended with a song called Idols, and it was just a nod to all the people that just affected me and my art, that I looked up to and has inspired me in some type of way. I'm really proud of that one.
Do you miss it?
Miss what?
Rapping.
Yes and no. No, because I can rap right now. I can rap in the shower at any time.
Do you rap in the shower?
Sometimes.
Do you ever record it?
No.
Just on your own?
I'll never record it. I'll never look for a pen. I'll never look for a notebook. I'll
Why?
never write it in my phone. I'll never do my voice. Yo.
Why?
Because then you'll go.
Because then you'll do it?
Then you'll do it.
And you don't want to do it again?
No, I don't want to do it again.
Why? Why draw such a hard line? I guess I don't understand. Why are you... It's got to, like, if you're thinking about it in the shower and you're still doing the brain gymnastics to write lyrics, like, aren't you ever tempted?
Earlier you asked me what I would tell my 16-year-old self, and I told you. So now you're asking 40-year-old me, how can I be tempted if I know what I would tell my 16-year-old self?
Yeah.
If this is the design of it, then how could I just marvel at the design? And how could I really say that I'm about fixing it if I'm complicit in it? And I am complicit if I'm participating.
Do you think, and I'm not trying to get you to rap again.
Give it to me. I will rap again, Jack.
Okay.
And when I do, it'll be the art in its truest form. It'll be rid of the evil. It'll be rid of the politics, the nastiness, the devils. It'll be rid of the ill-intentioned. It'll be rid of desperation. It will be rid of necessity, the need. It won't be because this is warranted and somebody's asking for it. It won't be because the streets need it. Somebody needs a collab. This rapper called. This award show is coming. No.
Right now, rapping to you feels like being complicit
It's jail.
in evil design.
It's jail. It minimizes me. I'm insulted almost today. Not almost, I am insulted when I'm referred to as a rapper today. It puts me in the box that I fought so hard to get out of. It comes with all of these stereotypes and stigmas, and it gives people this false perception that they have an idea of who I am, which is an insult.
And podcasting feels different.
Freedom feels different. Podcasting was the vehicle. The freedom is what feels different. There are no rules. There's no playground set up. There's no gates. You can't tell me what's going on here like you did in music. This just got here. So we're gonna freestyle the rules here and make them up as we see fit as we go. And none of y'all could really tell me anything about making up the rules here because, this is gonna sound arrogant, I made this space. In year two and a half-ish maybe, started getting some offers that were respectable, and more than I had maybe made in rap, but still not enough.
Offers from?
But eventually mid-roll came to the table with $250. Fucking mid-roll had $250 for us. That damn $250 number, you can't escape it. They had $250, and we were this close to taking it. And Spotify called maybe a day after the mid-roll offer came in. And we said, you got the weekend, because we're signing a deal. And we flew out there and we met up with a few people from Spotify, and we had that meeting. We were the #1 podcast there.
#1 podcast on Spotify.
Yeah. And we just kind of watched us hold that position as more podcasts came.
How did the actual, and go into as much detail as you like, but how did the deal end? How did the Spotify deal actually finish? How did you start to get out of it?
No, I didn't start to get out of it. I finished it.
You just finished the deal?
I finished the contract. 2 years, and we finished the term.
And you got
now,
to the end of it?
there was a lot of things that happened during the course that made me and some of my associates look up and say, mental note there, red flag, we'll address this later. But that time never came to fruition.
Did they want to move forward?
I can't speak for them.
I mean, in a statement, they said, we wanted to move forward with Joe. That's a public statement.
You can't believe public statements from companies. There really was no negotiation between Spotify and myself. We never asked for anything. When it was time to ask, we slid across a piece of paper with 5 questions. How many people did we bring here? What is our retention rate? It was 5 very basic, simple questions, none of which they answered. And sometimes no answer is an answer. I'm not gonna just stay somewhere if it ain't right. If it don't feel right, it's not about money, but if it don't feel right, if it's not good to the soul, I'm not staying. Creators just gotta keep creating until you get it right.
You have a very strong, it seems to me, you have a very strong sense of self-worth.
Well, thanks.
Am I right? Do you?
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah.
Really strong.
And that, I think, is something that is unique. I know a lot of artists who struggle with that sense of self-worth. Where does that come from for you?
It's a good question. How do you define success? And for me, it was never by any of the metrics that they did or any way that they did. I just defined it differently.
What is the future for Joe Budden? What do you see in 2030? You talked about reverse engineering.
Yeah, from 2030.
From
in 2030, everybody has to do business differently.
So
everybody.
what is it? Why? And what do you see? What are you working towards?
Creator dominance. I'm working so that the scale is tipped in the right direction, the way it needs to be. And there's only but so many people that's gonna fight that good fight. And I'm one of them. 2030, and every year up until then will be to just change some of this mess.
Are you optimistic about what it will be like?
Yeah, 1000%.
What's different now?
Well, nothing is different right now.
Okay.
It's the same right now. It feels a little different because we're making some progress, but that's smoke and mirrors. It's all the same infrastructure-wise. Well, you're here now, so that's awesome. But the change is in the marathon. It's in the passing of the baton. Pac said, I may not change the world, but I may inspire the mind that will. And this is a new variation of that. The messaging is different, and the messengers are different. Look at us. It's different now.
I think creators are in droves starting to recognize their worth, starting to recognize their value, and aren't gonna put up with this stuff. And they're gonna do what you did. And they're watching you. And they're gonna imitate you. And they're gonna
I hope
leave.
so. There is a way around all of it. And right now, the machines are winning. They're not beating me though.